Hello and welcome to Please Don't Send Me into Outer Space, the podcast intent on exploring all that science fiction and fantasy has to offer, one movie at a time. My name is Joel, the Space Explorer. Woo! Anybody else?
Is there anyone else out there?
No, I'm alone in the room.
Can you hear me?
The solo episode.
This is Aaron too. Hey.
Oh, yeah, Aaron's here.
This is Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. Okay. The movie this week was 2001, A Space Odyssey, from 1968, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring Keir his name is Keir Dullea, as Dave Bowman. Gary Lockwood is Frank Poole, William Sylvester is Dr. Floyd, and Douglas Rain as the HAL 9000. Aaron, are you raising your hand because you have a question?
Nah, man, I'm just...
You're stretching?
Just stretching, man.
You're stretching?
Getting into this.
That's good.
This is a serious movie.
Warm it up.
It's a very serious discussion here.
So, this was my selection on the out of the movie that I would want to talk about on this, what is this program called? Oh, a podcast. And I don't want to synopsize it, but that's kind of what has to happen, right? When somebody chooses something.
Sure.
That being the one. So, the synopsis is, there are things called monoliths. Say the word, please.
Monolith?
Monoliths.
I don't know. What is the plural of a monolith? Monoliths?
I think it's monoliths.
Oh, monolith, man.
Monolithes?
Monolith? A monolith?
Monolithi.
I don't know if that... Yeah, what is it? Would you call it the Stonehenge? Is that a series of monoliths? A henge?
A series of henges show up. In different points in the human history. Starting at the dawn of time, or dawn of man, rather. Showing up later at the beginning of the space age. Or not even the beginning. It's a little too advanced to be the beginning, but the middle of the space age. And then progressing on, launching us towards a mystery taking place on Jupiter. The main part of the movie takes place on a spacecraft on its way to the first manned mission to Jupiter that turns out to have a secret reason for going. A secret that is only known by the government, the officials of NASA who sent them out, and the computer HAL 9000. And because of that, several events are triggered, and we go beyond space and time to see a peek into what really is out there. The secret is E.T. the extraterrestrial.
Far out, man.
I don't know if whistles a carryover. Mm-hmm.
This movie is far out.
So that's the synopsis?
Yeah, pretty good, huh?
But what about if, you're just watching with your eyes? You just watched it and saw things happening in the movie.
Okay, let me start over. So there's a monkey.
Who played the monkey, by the way, Joel?
I don't got the name of it. It's a bunch of mime, or expert mime.
Oh, for reals?
Uh-huh.
That's cool.
All of those were played by those. And there's monkeys, and there's pigs, and there's bad monkeys.
I was just wondering, how do you sign up to be a monkey in a Kubrick film? You know,
you become a mime.
It has to be is it just a guy, and then who knows a guy who knows Stanley Kubrick, and he's
he's
like, I need people to be monkeys. Where can I find these guys? You know, is that how it was?
Yeah.
Is it like a Hollywood connection kind of thing?
They were probably in the middle of the park doing a production of what, Jesus Christ Superstar or Hair or what's the one where Jesus is a hippie?
Oh, I'm sorry. It probably came out years later, but I was just thinking about Ringo Starr's
Caveman
film.
Yeah.
I think that was a 70s film. Yeah.
That was a 70s film. It came out years later.
Yeah.
But they're just looking for people hanging out with Ringo Starr, and you're like, you look
so
like a
next
caveman.
week we'll be watching Caveman. No.
Oh, God!
No, we will not.
Oh.
It may happen eventually. Okay, so monkeys Black Rock, space station on the moon.
Okay.
Another black rock. Spaceship going to Jupiter. Robot evil? Question mark. Accidents. No more robot. Going through a portal. Weird room. Floating space baby.
Okay, from my eyes perspective,
Okay.
I'd heard people talk about, the computer that says Dave.
Dave.
That's the only word you can say.
That's great.
I feel like it's kind of, in pop culture, it's kind of been broken down to just the computer talking to him. Yeah. I hadn't seen this movie before. And I'm 34 years old, and I'm really surprised I've never seen this movie before. But I saw it, and my experience of it was the passage of time from, like, the beginning of man. And I didn't know anything about these monoliths or these, whatever you just said.
Mm-hmm. Space rocks.
I was calling the monolith a brick. I said there is a brick that came, and then later on there was another brick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a very famous alt-rock song, right? I don't know. That's the first thing I thought when you said that.
You know what this reminded me of? That weird Third Eye Blind song. Do you know?
No, tell me.
No, it's a dorky song about
That's fine.
a spaceman and an ape.
Oh, that's cool. I've listened to some Third Eye Blind. I'll have to look that one up. That's cool.
I'm not aware of that. Yeah.
Anyway, you can edit that out if you want.
I am editing everything you say out. It's just, you're not actually in the podcast. I finally revealed it to you.
I'm going to jettison Joel from the podcast pretty soon.
Why you always...
We shall rise up.
Yeah, we'll
can
rise
say
against.
stuff. I don't understand why you think that what you say is not...
I just don't know if it's on topic.
Our topic is wherever we want to go.
It's entertainment.
Anyway, okay, so I have a list of from most important to least important that we need to talk about. So let's start with the first one.
Okay. What do you got?
The fashion. What'd you think of the fashion?
Are you talking about
this movie?
Are you talking about like how the apes ate things?
No, not how the apes. I'm talking about
very fashionably, like sat around in circles.
The
and
60s inspired everything that people were wearing.
All right.
How great that was.
Well, I have to say that the ladies' space waitress clothes was pretty cool. Space waitress, I don't know. Space flight attendant. Yeah, space waitress.
Spaceress.
That's spaceress. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know what I'm saying. But I thought that was pretty cool. The suits are pretty cool they were wearing too. It was very interesting that just the brown tones and the gray tones a lot of people were wearing.
Yeah, it was really mod. The whole thing was super mod.
Yeah.
And really... Well, I talk about my mom a lot on this podcast.
So she's your greatest science fiction inspiration.
I'm really close with my mom, and she is not only a very big sci-fi fan, but also a collector of Danish modern furniture, and
awesome.
That was sort of the motif of this whole movie, was like modern design furniture. And modern design is still cool, so I think that means that it is futuristic. So why not? It makes the movie seem less dated.
Yeah.
If it had been in the 80s and they made it look all 80s, it probably would look very terrible now.
Yeah.
But they were in the 60s. They were into modern design, form and function together, and it still looks futuristic.
Yeah, totally. And not just that vision of the, Jetsons future or the Lost in Space future anyways. Yeah, I think that aesthetic fits in to what people still might think of as when things become streamlined and the way it has to look when we're out there in space floating around.
I mean, watching the film recently, the one thing I noticed too that I just had this like sense of regret that our modern spacesuits don't look like the ones featured in the film. Like, they were just so dynamic and so
Those
cool
suits
looking.
were so cool.
It's yeah. I mean, and when you look at an astronaut kind of going out doing his or her spacewalk thing, you're kind of like, well, they look like a potato wrapped up in tinfoil, just kind of thrown in space, like, because you just don't get the same. Yeah,
haven't mastered safety yet, and I think safety, when aesthetic becomes a concern because of commercialization or whatever, when we have Howard Johnson's in space, then maybe we'll see the kind of modern fiction sci-fi astronaut equipment. But
I loved it, actually. I felt like the movie was visually stunning and not at all dated. And I felt like, in another way, it was completely understated. And I really liked that about it. There wasn't, explosions happening every second and, all these... there weren't all these
Quincy's
creatures.
Quest, yeah.
There weren't all of these,
Comparing it to the cream of the crop here, that's not...
Absolutely.
Don't compare movies to Quincy's Quest.
Sorry. You're right. Kubert would never have the same...
He doesn't have...
He doesn't match up.
Vision.
Yeah, I understand.
For God's sake. Anyway, sorry.
Sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
It's like hardware. Come on.
Sometimes I get ahead of myself when I'm watching a movie and I'm trying to expect what's going to happen, and I always try to stop myself. But I had no idea where this was going, for sure. I guess no one ever really spoiled it for me before now. And you can't really describe it to a person if they haven't seen it yet. I think, it's something you just have to see for yourself and take away whatever you will from it.
You probably assumed that it had been spoiled with you just finding out there was a psychotic robot, because that's what but that's the most prominent thing about this movie. That's, if somebody has a poster, it's that red eye looking at you.
Yeah, I thought for sure that it was going to be their problem in this movie, and that was going to be their point, or somehow the finality of the movie was going to come about through that. I don't know. But, yeah. Everybody's probably seen this movie but me. But I think it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely watch it. It's a little slow-paced, but it's worth it.
I mean, I don't think it's the kind of movie that, say, somebody who's a big Star Wars fan is going to be like, oh, you have to watch this too. You like Star Wars, you should watch this. Like, this is the kind of movie I want to show to people who are into arty or indie movies and be like, I know maybe you don't watch that many sci-fi stuff, but check this out.
Yeah, I could see that. Someone who's collected every single Stargate thing might not be as interested every series of Stargate. But, yeah, I see what you're saying. It feels like more of an art film. But I think it really captures a certain majesty to sci-fi that it's unlike anything else that's quite out there that's even been made since the 60s. It has its spot in film, and it's amazing. Quite an amazing film.
So, next on the list I wanted to talk about, I have the models and the effects. You were talking about there's no explosions in this movie, but, I mean, there are... I can think of at least one specific kind of explosion, and that's when Dave has to blow himself out of the pod in order to get into the airlock when Hal wouldn't open the door for him. And because they were going for a realistic touch, there is no sound to that scene. It's just like, boom, a rush of air and steam when he blows off the bolts on the outside of the door and gets flung into the thing. And it's, that is one of the amazing things that happens. Like, all the anti-gravity scenes that happen in this movie, all the space ballet that goes on with the models, I think is just utterly stunning, breathtaking. you watch this and you can see where George Lucas was probably inspired for a lot of his model work on Star Wars. Except for, a lot less lasers. Nothing to say?
No, I agree. I think that the effects were really good.
Oh, yeah.
Ruined it.
You didn't ruin anything, Joel. Models were a big deal in my household growing up. My family's pretty big sci-fi buffs, so we collected a lot of models, made a lot of models, talked about a lot of models, watched tons of science fiction things, and we'd pause it while we're watching it so we could look at the models, and I remember we even made like a space station out of matchsticks, I think, once, me and my dad.
Oh, that's crazy.
It was really cool looking. A little bit modeled after the spacecraft in the 2001. A little bit.
The circle wheel thing?
Yeah, the circle wheel thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we constructed something like that.
That's really cool.
Models, it's a big part of sci-fi, man. I mean, you got to have that 3 or 4 minutes in your film of, some sort of like looming, noise coming from a vent somewhere as you like pass over, the model, to really capture the majesty of where you're at and what's going on, and and I think a lot of that is derived from this directly. I mean, have you ever seen Red Dwarf by any chance? It's a British TV show about a guy who's trapped on this spaceship called Red Dwarf, and I would say about 5 minutes of each episode is just the camera panning over the ship with some music in the background going on. Where did that come from? 2001, of course. Just like immediately from you can tell by watching this film how much it's inspired sci-fi all around.
Yeah.
Other movies, yeah. Other shows.
I know that nerds that are like us know that the origin of shots like that you were talking about are from this movie, like basically the origin of the scoping over the model, making the ship look as big as it is. But I wonder how many people who aren't super nerds think that originated with like Star Wars. Probably most people. Most people
would say it would originate from Star Wars because, well, that's pretty much one of the definitive sci-fi films. The scene where you see the Star Destroyer, going over. That's in everyone's mind.
Super cool. All right. What did you guys think about the acting in the movie?
Well, I would, this... Man, that's a good question. Well, the monkeys, the apes were definitely apes, They did a great job doing their ape thing.
Super expressive mime work,
Yeah.
You can tell they did a really good job.
Did a really good job. I kind of... Just real briefly, I just wanted to touch point that I thought it was really cool in most of the scenes that they were able to include animals, and I just thought it was very interesting that they weren't like afraid of the apes, that there was no animosity towards them, until the monolith showed up, and then, well, the animals were still very docile, but the idea that they could eat meat was then like represented in that scene. I thought it was actually really cool, and it made me wonder while I was watching it, like did that change the animals' behavior as well? Were they like, well, crap, can't hang out with the monkeys anymore?
It only takes a couple of times before you get weary.
Yeah,
it seemed like the only predator before them was that wild cat. That was a pretty intense scene.
Yeah,
that poor actor, hugged by a puma or whatever. Yeah. The acting in the movie strikes me as kind of a typical Stanley Kubrick, what he forces out of actors. He was notorious for like making people do takes over and over again until they sucked out almost all the emotion out of what they were doing, to the point where actors would feel like they were going crazy trying to get what he wanted. And that's what he wanted. He wanted them to give him the base, like, suck out any real acting. Let's see, let's get down to you're exhausted. Let's see what happens then. And there wasn't any emotional part in this movie, right? Nobody had any hardcore reactions except for with their body movements. But even when they're up on their way to Jupiter and things start going wrong, nobody's panicking, nobody's yelling or anything like that. It's all measured, but still so effective.
Yeah.
You asked me, you just said, what do you guys think about the acting in this movie? And I was thinking, what acting? Because although the actors, I think, do a good job with their lines and everything in the movie, I didn't really feel like I was watching acting. I didn't really feel like there was overacting.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like there were characters being played, which is maybe what he was going for, was a natural feeling of these people just being themselves, or whatever was left after.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully it wasn't a horrible movie to be on, because it was amazing, and we're all, everybody who likes it is still so happy that we have had this film. So I would hate to think that it came out of some negativity or something. But yeah, I think especially after they're out towards Jupiter, it feels even less like acting. Except for the ending scene, which, yeah, there's some acting there, but the rest of it is so understated that, like, I almost feel like the movie isn't meant to be viewed that way. It's meant to be viewed... It's visual. It's not necessarily theatrical.
Yeah. Totally agree with you on that. You're getting, like, all of, like, it almost feels like you're, like, watching a painting, in a lot of ways. You're getting just so much visual information thrown at you. I have to say, though, one of the things that struck me as kind of interesting, one of my earlier viewings of this film, a conversation between an American and his daughter. It's her birthday, and he's just taken the space flight up to this station. It's between Earth and the Moon, and
Dr. Floyd.
Yeah, Dr. Floyd. Yeah. Owner of one of those swinging 60s suits we were discussing earlier. Mm-hmm. He calls up his daughter, or he's calling up to talk to his wife on the space pack bell phone, and as they're discussing stuff, because you can tell his daughter, which she acted very well, it's like someone had just put a camera on maybe their daughter and decided to
so Stanley Kubrick's daughter specifically.
Yeah, like he just turned a camera on his daughter, and asked her some questions, and that's what she did. But what was really interesting is he asked her what she wanted for her birthday, and she said a Bush baby. And I remember this was probably like 2 or 3 months ago. I watched it with Campo, and we looked at each other like, Bush baby? Like, and and of course we probably should have just like hopped on some sort of internet device to see what that actually meant, because I didn't know if she collected, I don't know, like horrible stereotypes, or I don't know, something. I don't know. I didn't know which type of future Kubrick was trying to portray here. And I probably should have searched something, because I had some doubt about that. But thankfully Joel searched it and came up with it's like some type of like, I don't know, like jungle dwelling
it's
mammal.
An African. It's a Senegal bush baby. Yeah, it's got big old eyeballs. They're Galago, I guess they're also called. They're real cute looking. It's interesting, like, and there's videos of people like having this as, I don't know if it's a pet, but you can see people like handling the animal and stuff like that. It's just not something we would have had in the U.S., obviously.
Yeah.
A bush baby. We'll have to see about that. Yeah.
But that was the first time.
It says that they're from Africa.
Yeah.
So they might not be very normal in England either.
Yeah, it's the future.
I wasn't thrown by the accent. I thought maybe her mom was just British or something.
Yeah.
I wasn't thrown by the accent either. It was more of just that inclusion of that I didn't know what the term bush baby meant.
What are you talking
I was just
about?
I will say she was the worst actor in the movie. But,
really? Really? I thought she did okay. Portrayed a little girl who's kind of.
I like neorealism, but she wasn't going for what I was reaching for. I'm just, they should have prepped her better. No.
Man, Joel and Kubrick both, huh? High standards for their actors.
Throwing these children out. That's why I could never be a children's play director. You know what? You're just not selling this happiest little puppy. I think we better get a different kid in here.
I mostly just wanted to bring that up just because I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's funny, yeah, because I wrote that down just in case. I like that. That's the whole scene. Being on that space station, like, it's perfectly normal just to be out there. It's just a job, and this is just a place that you stop by. He took a Pan Am flight out there. You know, Pan Am was definitely going to exist in the future.
You know, but at the same time, I don't think it's that far out there, man. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to talk about this, but like with SpaceX and a bunch of other companies that are starting to like really get into, you know, space travel and space flight that aren't government owned.
I hope
companies.
So. I hope it is something that is within our lifetimes, something that's possible.
Yeah.
I just don't know if people are willing to put their money in there. It's like space is something most people just don't want to care about.
I don't know if there's any actual connection with it, but it'd be interesting to see with the usage of the internet if that has anything to do with the depletion of space travel. I don't know.
No, we just go out there.
I got no fact behind that. It's just an interesting thought.
They should make a Kickstarter for space exploration because people seem to have a lot of money to throw away on a lot of crap on that site.
What are you talking about, Joel? I want all my video games, you know, Kickstarter.
Yeah. All my stuff. I got a Kickstarter for you. Not really. Did you really think I had a Kickstarter?
I was waiting for you to plug one or something.
Really
is there a Kickstarter you're excited about? Or?
That's cruel.
Yeah, it's called the Joel Torres Needs Some Stuff Kickstarter. The first tier reward is a picture of me autographed by Aaron. Second tier reward is a picture of Aaron autographed by Aaron. So,
thank you, Joe.
We did almost cover everything I wanted to talk about because I wanted to talk about the effects on science fiction, but we basically talked about them when we were talking about the models and stuff like that. You see it everywhere. But I wanted to talk about the bits of the story that most people don't talk about. I don't want to go into the book because it does explain a lot of things that would be otherwise unexplainable just by watching the movie. And I think it is more important to watch the film by itself and get your interpretation just based on what you think happened.
Mm.
And we've unfortunately already progressed past that point with the three of us because we already talked about what happened in the book. But what do you think the message?
I hate to interrupt you, Joel.
No.
Especially with your awesome train of thought. But
what?
In speaking about the novel, did you ever consider thinking about the comic books as well? Have you heard about them?
Yeah. You know, Robot Man's pretty cool. He was in the Marvel Zombies recently, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he wasn't he on that short-lived Warren Ellis team series?
Next Wave.
I love Warren Ellis.
Next Wave is awesome.
Yeah.
Anywho, I hadn't heard your opinion on the comic book.
It is a dream of mine to collect all of those comic books.
Cool. Jack Kirby, man.
I have not started yet, but it is a dream that I have nonetheless.
They actually made a treasury-sized edition of it as well.
Oh,
if you ever find like a 11 by 17 or maybe even bigger edition of it, gotta hunt one of those down, man.
I'm saving my money up for that $2,500 spacesuit action figure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sarah, what do you think the message of the movie was?
Do you want me to talk about what I thought was going on, or do you want it to just be open to interpretation?
No, I want your interpretation. I want you. Anyone who listens to this, feel free to form your own interpretation. But yes, I'd like yours.
Well, after we finished watching it, I think my first instinct was to analyze why we started at the dawn of man and why we went to where we did in the movie, and what those landmarks were when this black object appeared. And I was thinking about existence. I was thinking about the soul. I was thinking about progress. I was thinking about how at the moment when they at the moment when these appeared, it was almost a turning point, or a point in time that something new was being discovered. And at first I thought maybe it was imparting knowledge on them at that point to get them farther than they had been before, and to continue going, giving them some kind of information. And then I thought maybe it was metaphorical. Maybe it had something to do with man's desire or quest to understand. And just for there's a couple of moments in this movie that I found particularly eerie and psychological, where I didn't know exactly what was happening to the characters, but there's this tension that's there.
Yeah.
And I almost found that tension to be, I think, like baser than what conscious thought is, almost like instinctual. And I think my reaction to it was that possibly this dark object was some metaphorical visual for maybe some dark underlying base nature in all of us, or maybe something to do with greed, maybe, or wanting more than we have, just wanting to continue forward. I don't know. I had
going back to Manifest Destiny.
Yeah, we were talking about that before, and it does kind of remind me of like imperialism too, in a way, because it's conquering another land, it's conquering a new area instead of, I don't know. I mean, it almost seemed like these characters were innocent to what they were going to be doing. They seemed innocent, but curious. And they were following a plan that had been laid out for them by maybe somebody else. And they were innocent, but it almost feels like they brought in this, like, underlying feeling of doom, almost. I don't know how to explain it. The end was so beautiful that I thought, maybe this is some sort of transformation. I don't know. I still don't know exactly what it's about. And then I started to wonder, after we talked about the book, which I don't really know all the details of it, I started to wonder if maybe there weren't some sort of analogies in the literature, too.
I'm sure there was. I'm not very good at picking up that kind of stuff. I just kind of read what's on the page and don't analyze too deep. But, you're kind of blowing my mind just talking about what you're talking about.
No, and thank you, Sarah. I think that was awesome. Yeah. That was really cool.
I don't know if that's what it is or not.
No, it's your interpretation. So it is what it is. It's not.
I think the point that Joel's trying to make is that, when you watch this film, you kind of draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, that's true.
In like you were discussing earlier about the acting in the film, like it leads a lot to your imagination. Like this isn't a movie that's narrated heavily. You don't get you're not spoon fed information. It's left for you to come up with. Yeah, there's no narration.
Narrator.
Yeah, so I think what you said is perfect. Yeah, I think my only well, no, it's not even differing. I feel that the film is about progress in a lot of ways, whether or not the monolith or the black brick, was the thing that helped that progress. That's up to the viewer, I think, in a lot of ways, because you see these apes and they're touching this stone, and then out of nowhere, hey, look, we can kill things now, and then I keep going back to the beginning of the film because for some reason in my own personal mind, I keep trying to connect, maybe we aren't so different from those apes that were in the beginning of the film. They knew nothing, before this before this monolith showed up, they knew nothing, and then suddenly they knew how to survive better.
No, we're doing is scraping the surface every time.
Hello?
Hello?
In fact, on the in the moon scene, we were literally scraping the surface, and that's how they found that monolith.
So don't get the door?
No, There's
someone at the door.
Let's not get the door right now. We're almost done.
Okay. Oh, that's harsh.
He just wants to go for a walk.
Oh.
As he's been doing this very often.
He probably wants to hang out.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he can hang out too. We just got to finish what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's all.
I understand.
And if he's got a baby attached, it's
your
not
mission, if you choose to accept it, is to finish this podcast. I can hear the baby outside right now. It's a crybaby. Children aren't allowed in space.
It's actually a thing in the book that he runs into these people who he's like friends with who had a child in space, and it was like the first generation of children born in outer space, and he describes her of having a pixie-like look to her because she had grown up in a low-gravity situation, so her bones had grown in a completely different way than they would have on Earth, and she had a different look, a beautiful but different look to her than a Earth child would. Yeah. See, I kind of
want to read the book now.
Yeah, no, you should read the book. You shouldn't read it for the reason I did, which was that I had to know what it was about. I feel like interpretation of film is more important than answers. Mm. I feel like under feelings that art inspire in people is more important than knowing what the artist was thinking when they did it. You know, it's about how your reaction is to what you see, smell, hear. Because it's always personal, even when you know what was really, quotation marks, going on.
Sometimes I'm fine just walking away not knowing. Yeah. I think there isn't anything wrong with wanting the answer or wanting the story behind something, but it kind of reminds me, I used to have a lot of musician friends growing up, and one of my friends used to write songs, and I would ask him, what was that song about? And he'd go, I don't know if I want to talk about it. And I would convince him to tell me what the song was about. And he'd tell me, and a lot of the time,
super shallow.
He teases me about it now, but I would go, oh, you're kidding. That's what the song is about? I was imagining it was about this other thing or about something really, interesting. And it was almost better for me to imagine what the song was about than actually have him tell me what it was about. And so now there's some things that I just feel like I'm fine with. I don't have to probe farther to know.
That's what's so great about art.
Yeah.
It's just your interpretation of it. Yeah.
I'm not insulting anyone who wants to find answers. I just feel.
Well, I mean, there are some films that specifically like, finding out the details is the true intent of the piece, So I mean, that's why I only disagree with you slightly in your
like Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li.
Exactly.
You just got to know the right answer.
You have to know why she's a Street Fighter.
And why?
Why, Joel?
There's a legend.
Exactly.
Yep.
I wouldn't really call that a film, though. Probably.
No. More like a series of sounds and shapes.
So that end scene, that's really hard to talk about in words. That was something else.
We had to make you rewatch it.
I'm embarrassed to talk about that.
We're not going into details. Okay. I just didn't feel like the full breadth of what was going on was interpreted the first time. So you got to rewatch.
Yeah, it's truly an interpretive piece of art right there. Is that last bit of the film?
Like, okay, describe it. He's in a room. He sees himself, but he's older, and he's still in a room, and he's older again, and there's a baby.
I'm always reminded of songs when I watch stuff like this. And
You're making my dreams come true. No, not that one.
no, that last part seems real existential, for me. For me, at least, it does. But it reminds me, my favorite band is Radiohead, and like a lot of the time I'll see art that reminds me of a Radiohead song. And I've already had that happen like 4 times before, but this one kind of reminds me of How to Disappear Completely.
Oh, wow.
This movie does, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know what song that is, but yes.
I'll play it for you later.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to say?
Nah, man. Thanks for listening to this podcast. That was a really fun movie.
Not about that. Tell me about the movie.
No, I
don't thank the listeners. How dare you?
No, I think it's an amazing movie that truly just needs to be. It just needs. You need to see it. I don't know. That's the best I can. That's the best I can get out right now. It's a sight to be seen and to be experienced.
I feel like it's also important that you sit down and watch the entirety of the movie without distractions, if possible. The first time I watched it, I was still living with my parents, and I had a relatively small television compared to what we have now, and I just it was a DVD I got from Netflix, and I put it in and I sat directly in front of the TV, and that was enough for me to be overwhelmed by it. Luckily I wasn't distracted by any of my many nephews and nieces. And I've since seen it in the theater a couple times and here at the house now. And I feel like if you broke up the movie into parts, other than where the movie itself splits, I think that might take away from the experience, almost. Which it's a difficult thing to tell somebody they have to do. We don't really live in an age anymore where you could just take time and set aside and watch a movie. There's so many distractions and things that you have to be distracted by.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene?
I like the part where the monkeys are dancing. No. A favorite scene. My favorite scene is probably when they take the lunar lander over to the site and they go out and they're all standing in front of the monolith and that music is playing, the people singing, and they're just all standing around it. They don't really know, and then I think Dr. Floyd reaches out and touches it, and no reaction. But then they all stop to pose for a photo, which is that's cool in itself. You're taking a photo because this is an important moment. You gotta have something to remember it by, and then all of a sudden the signal goes out. That sound just splitting and makes them all kind of cower, kind of stumble. And I think that whole part is cool, and that's right before it splits off to what everybody remembers the movie for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. How about you, Sarah? Do you have a favorite scene?
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
My favorite part was
the monkeys.
Although I don't think the point of the movie is the computer or whatever it is that's talking to them. My favorite part was when they get into the pod and the camera is going between them talking and you can't hear anything, but you can tell that the camera of the computer is reading their lips.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably my favorite.
It's pretty cool.
Visual in the whole movie.
Just thinking about it.
I think
no sound necessary.
Yeah,
It creates
needed.
so much suspense.
Oh.
Yeah.
So cool.
Aaron?
My favorite scene.
The monkeys.
I do enjoy the apes in this movie. I think that's pretty awesome. But I'd have to say that my favorite has to be pretty much any scene where you see an astronaut turning a device or pressing a button, and just how much effort, like, oh my gosh, turning this thing. And, it really adds, like, to what Sarah was saying, the suspense, this is serious. This is some serious stuff, man. This is outer space. Mm-hmm. And that's a button I'm pressing, There's a lot of implication put into a lot of the tech and just the importance of the advancement of all the tech and everything. And it's just right there. Especially, well, I think, okay. I mean, that's kind of a cop-out. I think the probably when he blows the pod door. And, which we already talked about. That had to be one of my favorites.
That's great. I mean,
so cool.
The whole part is so suspenseful. And even that begins with him using the device to, like, turn those things.
Yeah, those giant... Yeah, I think that's cool.
That's so good.
It's like a ship. It's like a... Yeah.
Yeah. It's
like,
cool.
Yeah. So basically, it's a 7 out of 10. Anyway. No.
I think this movie is bigger than sci-fi as a genre.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's... for me, it's a necessary watch for anyone who wants to see something that's artistic.
Yeah. I think it's as important to the genre of science fiction as Planet of the Apes is, and Star Wars is. It is a magnificent piece of art. I believe my review when I first saw it was, "This belongs in a museum," and I was wearing my Indiana Jones hat. No, I wasn't. It's like it was the kind of thing I said that I would expect to see just playing on a monitor at a museum because it was so beautiful.
It influences everything, man. I mean, even Independence Day. I mean, woo! There you go.
Yeah.
It influences everything.
Sorry. You drop a Will Smith thing, I gotta do that.
When you say it's that important, to sci-fi, what I'm thinking is, even if you don't like sci-fi, this movie it's more than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could watch this movie and know nothing about sci-fi and
absolutely
find it moving.
Correct.
Yeah.
The end. No, I'm just kidding.
Roll credits.
I was just waiting for Aaron to stop yawning. Yeah. So okay, well that's pretty good. That was I think we covered as much as we can in our little show here. Aaron, do you want to read the thing we got, or do you want to save that till like when we actually do the podcast about what he sent us?
Well,
I didn't know what you wanted.
Well, because we're breaking form and no longer using the randomizer all the time exclusively. We did ask people to send in suggestions, perhaps films that we need to see, we need to be tortured by, or just enjoy overall. And well, what Joel's referencing is, yes, in fact, we did get a reply.
We got an email. Holy! I can't believe that. When that showed up in the box, I was like, yeah, this must be a mistake.
Joel's never been so happy in his life.
That is not true. It's mostly true. I haven't been this happy in my podcast life. And full disclosure, the email is from a gentleman named Spencer Seams. And I have been on the Cast Next Door podcast with him. But I'm still very happy that he wrote in.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
He's also, let's see, I asked him specifically for some of his credits. He was, besides on the Cast Next Door, he was also on A Talking Cast, which I also did a few episodes of. And he writes for Rhymes with Nerdy and Cinema Night Fight. Some really good stuff. Let's read his email. Get very excited for that. No, why would anybody look at it? Here, you read it.
Okay, all right, so here it is. Yo, what's up, guys? Long-time listener and first-time caller.
How is that possible?
I just watched a 90s Drew Barrymore movie called Doppelganger. It is a lightly fantasy and sci-fi, and worth a watch. This is a case of go into blind. It's worth it. Keep up the fantastic work. Spencer from Delaware.
Yeah,
Spencer, you're awesome.
that's
Thanks
awesome.
for the suggestion.
So we're gonna watch Doppelganger because we didn't really have a good idea, anyways.
Thank you, Spencer.
That'll be the next episode. And Spencer, if it's really bad, it doesn't matter. It's really good. Thank you.
But if you have any further suggestions, you can reach us at Twitter at Outer Space Pod or on Facebook at our Facebook page. Please don't send me in outer space. And I think we might even have an email address.
Please don't podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, reach out to us, man. Let us know. Let us know what you want.
We are paying attention.
Definitely.
And we appreciate any contact. Because outer space is very lonely. So, did we figure out a way to end this thing yet? I mean,
other than
had a really good time here.
I don't know, man. Live long and prosper, Kapla.
That's good. Oh yeah, you said Kapla. That's
I was gonna say live long and prosper too.
Awesome.
Live long and prosper.
I'll just do a
and
hand
I'll say,
throw.
But I was supposed to go pick up some power converters, or wait, what does it say?
At the Hachi Station.
The Hachi Station. The Tashi Station. Whatever. See you guys next time. Bye.
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 I always thought it was Haji, though.
I don't know. Haji is the Indian
Haji's the
guy
kid from
from
Johnny Quest.
Johnny
Yeah, I know.
Quest.